Before we get started today, I need to let you know that today's show of the School of Podcasting's morning announcements, it's like no other episode of this show that I've ever done. I mean, we're going to explore all things podcast, and we always talk about podcasting, but today's episode is not entirely work safe. I know it seems kind of weird just saying it. You see, I love to experiment, whether it's with software or strategies or tools, and I always get that question from people about how many downloads should my podcast be getting? And I know the numbers of some of the bigger shows, and I know what they're getting, but I didn't know how many downloads a bad podcast would get. So while I always talk about delivering value in your podcast that impacts and inspires, I set out as an experiment to create a podcast that delivered zero value. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to play you clips and I'm going to reveal the download numbers from my experiment in making the worst podcast ever. And speaking of experiments, do you hear this? That's right, it's the Stylizer 3000. I told you about this last week. And of course, why do they always... Hold on. Oh, what's up with the 18 pounds of Scotch tape to get the thing... Oh, okay, and... All right. Oh, and of course, it's in plastic. Okay, let me get the scissors out. And jeez, ow! You ever it's like a paper cut, only it's a plastic cut. Okay, hold on. And if I get this to, now that goes into the mixer and, okay, hold on. And that goes in, all right. Okay, what's this button labeled power do?
Stylizer 3000 power on.
Oh, okay. Well, what's this button do? I guess I should read the manual. I don't know. If I just press, is it this one?
Activating bad English accent mode.
Hello, Governor. I was driving along on the M1. I had to swerve to miss a lorry who was driving dreadfully, and I hit a stag and it flew up on my bonnet. Right.
Activating NPR mode.
Hello, this is your personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson, and on today's show, we'll be talking about being yourself.
Activating sportscaster mode.
Hey there, podcast fans. Today, we massage your message. We tackle the technology, and we flatten the learning curve.
Activating on fire mode.
Hey there, podcasters. Are you ready to blow up? Today, we'll be talking about being on a desert island where you can think about your dreams.
Activating Rocky mode.
Hey, yo, Adrian!
Activating preacher mode.
Brothers and sisters, today we'll be talking about the sins of FadeBurner, Podomatic, and using your website as a media host.
Activating Daniel mode.
Welcome to the School of Podcasting, where today I'll give you 14 reasons why you...
Activating Springsteen mode.
And my dad looked at me. He said, son, if you don't cut your hair and quit that podcasting, you ain't never gonna...
Activating Caddyshack mode.
He's a Cinderella boy, about to win his first podcast award. Oh, he got all that one.
Activating Dice Man mode.
Oh, this is your personal podcast coach, the Dice Man. There once was a podcaster from Nantucket whose podcast was so long you could...
Activating Godfather mode.
Someday, and that day may never come, I will call upon you to review my show on iTunes. But until that day, accept this episode as a gift on my door.
Activating Captain Kirk mode.
You must join the School of Podcasting, you people. We have step-by-step tutorials. You.
Activating Monster Truck mode.
This Sunday, you can save with the coupon listener. That's LASTENER. That's this Sunday.
Activating Vader mode.
The power is strong in this podcast. I need a mint.
Activating Binky and the Whiz mode.
Hey, it's 10 past the hour. It's Friday. That's right. It's time for the Friday fart song. Oh, dear. Binky, you so crazy.
Activating Paul Harvey mode.
And that pudgy little teenager will later launch the School of Podcasting. And now you know the rest of the podcast.
Stylizer 3000 power off.
Activating Dave mode. Hit it, ladies.
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
podcasting since 2005. I am your very own personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson. Thanking you so much for sitting through 4 minutes and 50 seconds of complete nonsense. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com. We do talk about all things podcasting. I already told you what's going to be in the show today. And I guess the whole point of the Stylizer 3000 is to say, look, the door is wide open for you to make any podcast in any kind of fashion that you want. So I'm not going to go through, like I said, today's show is completely different. And I will say this again. I have bleeped out most of the bad words, like the ones that begin with F, but the other ones I kind of left in. And so the idea here was to do a podcast in a character. And this particular episode is inspired by two things. Number one, I wanted to create the worst podcast ever. Number two, I needed to test Podbean.com. And it was during the playing with this podcast that halfway through Podbean quit serving my files. That's a fact. And I contacted their support and they went, oops. And they did fix it. But that was one of the reasons why I did this. And then again, I wanted to see how bad a podcast I could make. And for the record, it's kind of hard to make a really, really bad. I kept falling into habits of, I want to be funny. So let me play you this. And the idea was to have none of my voice in this particular, and if any of the episodes, I wanted to go completely incognito. I did not promote this show at all. I think only 2 or 3 people knew of it. And here is the beginning of the first episode. And what I've done is I've pulled clips to kind of give you an idea. Most of the shows were about 5 minutes or less.
And now the worst podcast ever.
All right, welcome to the worst podcast ever. I'm a grumpy old man with a portable recorder, and I'm going to tell the world what they need to hear. I'm so sick of the world, and everything's going to hell, and my friend said, you need a podcast. And I'm like, what the hell's a podcast? Do I need one of them pod thing listening ear with the magic white earbuds? Look, magic white earbuds. I paid too much for this because there's an Apple logo on it.
1 mile.
Shut up! It's ridiculous. Where is common sense? And I know I said the F word again. So give me a little E. Give me an E. Because I'm explicit. You know what Bette Midler says? Fuck them if they can't take a joke. I like that attitude. And I like the F word. It's a good word. You should save it. Too many people say it all the time. No, you gotta save it. That's a special little word. But no, people spend that word like it doesn't got nothing. It's a great word. And people just, no, you gotta save it. That word has power. It adds punctuation to it. So wake up, America. This is going to be the worst podcast ever. Horrible production, horrible content, just an old man screaming into a microphone. And you know what? You're going to come back and listen some more. Why? Because you're an idiot. You are so stupid. You're going to be like, I can't believe that guy said that. And I'm going to suck you in with my horrible content and my stupid screaming. Because everybody likes a train wreck. So I'll see you next week on the worst podcast ever.
There you go. So right out of the gate, I was thinking about what makes a bad podcast. Now, this is not to say that podcasts with swear words are horrible, but it is something that will turn people off almost instantly, and especially the F word. Some people can tolerate other ones, but when you start dropping F-bombs, a lot of people will tune out. So that episode was titled Feel the Love, and over the last 2 years, it's been downloaded 88 times. Now, in the first month, it got 9 downloads. 9 downloads. So if you release a podcast and you get 8 downloads, this doesn't mean you're a horrible podcast. You might want to go back and think about how you're going to impact your audience. So in episode number 2, I decided I wanted to say things that nobody else was saying. I was going to be controversial. Now, for the record, when I think back on this, I'm like, well, that's actually kind of entertaining. some salty language in here.
Do people not understand that Kim Kardashian is basically a porn star? She's famous for getting on a camera, and then it was supposedly leaked. 'Cause look, my daddy defended OJ, and I just got slammed on a camera. Now make me famous. And they did. She got pregnant by the world's biggest narcissist, Kanye West. This is the idiot used to jump up on an award show. I deserve an award. I deserve an award. He's probably one of these idiot children that grew up where, guess what? Nobody loses. We don't keep score anymore. Everybody wins. Then he gets to the MTV Awards and like, what do you mean I don't win? Yes, I do. My mommy said so. I always get an award. Everybody gets an award. I learned that when I was in the 2nd grade playing T-ball. Well, guess what, Kanye? You don't win an award. Sit down and shut up. Sit down and shut up. You stupid man. But that's how amazing the media is. They can take somebody whose only talent is getting slammed on film and let her build an empire. And then they just take her sisters, and then her little sister. Oh, wait, is she legal yet? Quick, get her in a bikini and turn her into a skank. Wait, can we have some more illegitimate children? Sure, why not? Everybody gets slammed. Everybody get pregnant. Hurry up. We got another season coming up of reality TV. Reality my ass TV. Are you watching Honey Boo Boo? Oh my God, have you seen that show? That poor... Would somebody please tell Honey Boo Boo you are fat? You're a fat little kid. This poor little girl, her mama lets her sleep in, and then she has cheesy poofs for breakfast. Are you kidding me? That girl should be in protective services from herself. It's amazing. How do we keep finding the stupidest people in America and making them stars? That is ridiculous. Why isn't anybody listening to me? I need my own TV show. I can get somebody knocked up. Maybe. That's why you need people like me to tell you the truth. But you're an idiot. You're stupid. You're watching all that crap. You're making all these people famous. Snooki, do you realize, America, that you've made Snooki and JWoww and all those stupid, idiotic kids? Do you realize they are millionaires? Millionaires for being idiots. We're making idiots millionaires. What is wrong with you, America? Why don't we find somebody who's doing something good and put them on TV? There you go, I said it. On the worst podcast ever, at weirdpodcastever.com. Go there. I'll see you next week. You know why? Because you're an idiot. I'm just going to tune into that old man screaming again. He's an idiot. Well, guess what? You. You're an idiot because you're going to go, I'm going to go tell Kim. She's going to Twitter. She's going to tweet. She's going to Facebook. Screw you. Worstpodcastever.com. Go there now.
This has been the worst podcast ever. For more information, go to www.worstpodcastever.com.
Okay, so in this case, the host is still insulting the audience, still dropping F-bombs, and it's kind of interesting when you do a character, because number one, that kills my voice. Number two, I start saying things that I wouldn't say, but I start thinking, to me, the character was kind of a cross between Archie Bunker without being quite so racist, but just the whole oh, geez, kind of mentality. And somebody that was even older than me that could go back in the day and go that route. So now the fun part is that particular episode, when it was released, and I believe I'm looking at months numbers, was downloaded twice the first month. So people had heard the show and they did not come back. In the second month, they got 3 plays. And at one point, though, it did get, well, here's the thing. Over the last 2 years, it's gotten 78 plays. The highest was it once got 6 plays in a month. And that episode was affectionately named Everybody Gets Slammed. And it is weird because, number one, you have to stay in character. Number two, it doesn't come easily to you because I'm not that character. At least I hope not. Here in episode 3, I decided to take the character into if you think about it, I had gone to a store and went into the baby section, and they had all this technology for raising children now, baby monitors and this and that. And I was thinking about what would a grumpy old man say about raising kids. And so I did 2 episodes. One was called You're Ruining Your Sons, and the other one was Daughters Are Idiots. And so here's a couple quick clips of this.
That's the bottom line. Kids get to do whatever they want to, with no consequences. And why do moms do this? Because they want their little baby to be happy. I want him to grow up and be happy. Well, guess what? You're raising him to be a complete fool. He's an idiot. Why? Because when he goes to work, he's going to expect everything handed to him. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way in the real world. Guess what? He's going to marry some woman and make her miserable. Why? Because he's going to expect her to do everything like mom did. And she's going to be like, who are you? I don't think so. He'll probably get some girl pregnant. Why? Because he never learned self-control. He never learned patience because he got everything he ever wanted, and he got it right now, and he probably got 2. One from you and one from grandma. And kids aren't stupid. If they ask mom for it, and mom says, no, it costs too much, what do? They go over to dad. Mom's so mean. She won't give me the money for my brand new car. Dad goes, here, buy 2 cars, son. Here's some extra money for a spoiler and a stereo. Go on. We have a nation of brats who expect everything. Why? Why do I expect everything? I deserve it because my parents were divorced. Wah!
Okay. And that particular episode was downloaded over 2 years, 76 times. And the interesting thing is I'm looking through the stats here. Many of these say they are bots. Here is one, Google bot, Googlebot, Geico, Googlebot. And when you look up the link, it basically says it's Google just coming around to make sure you're indexed. So there's a good chunk of these that are probably not real people. And this clip, because this is getting kind of old, just hearing Dave rant here. I'm playing this one because listen, about halfway through, I lose my accent. I start sounding more and more like me. I continue the tradition of calling my audience an idiot. And this one is from the episode about how daughters are idiots.
People think I'm old-fashioned, and they think I don't believe in freedom of choice. I say, yeah, I do believe in freedom of choice. There's a choice to keep your legs together, you stupid slut. There's a reason why people say, why should I buy the cow when I can get the milk for free? It's because it's true, you idiot. Why would I do that? That makes logical sense. And ladies, if you want a man to fall in love with you, quit being an ignorant slut. Get married and then rock his world. He will empty the trash, he'll put up the toilet seats and everything else you want. But you gotta make him wait. And for the best results, find a man who hasn't been ruined by his mother. Then when he has sex with you, you two are gonna bond. I know this sounds way old-fashioned, but it works. However, you're too stupid to believe me. You look at all the sluts and whores on the cover of all those magazines.
Notice here, this is where I'm like, man, there's barely an accent here.
You look at all the sluts and whores on the cover of all those magazines
Maybe
at the checkout counter, and you want to look and act just like them. Well, go ahead. Be an idiot. Go create some more bastards and charge the government for their child care. You're an idiot.
Okay. Jeez. And again, it's kind of weird because this is what I'm worried about. People are going to go, well, that's still you. And I'm like, no, it's a character. And we'll talk about this when we get done with this. But I realized now that episode called again, Daughters Are Stupid. Again, totally not something I would name it, but Grumpy would. And this is where you start to sound like a schizophrenic. Lots of bots in the stats here. Bot. Total number of downloads, 79. The highest ever was the very first month when it was played 10 times. But for the most part, every month it was getting 5 plays for the last 2 years. 5 plays per month. And so I sat back and thought, wait, I'm supposed to be making a really unlistenable podcast because these were opinions. Somebody might actually agree with me but I was like, no, I need something that's completely worthless. And I also hadn't really dipped my toe completely into the absolutely 100% just completely immature potty humor kind of thing. And so this episode was titled Farts Are Funny. And this will give you an idea. It's about 2 minutes long. It's pretty much the entire episode.
And now the worst podcast ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, our orientation will begin in 5 minutes.
And yes, this is a real fart, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. He's relaxed.
Jakey.
All right, that's enough of that. Literally, that goes on. The laughing goes on for like another minute and a half. Again, the idea here, zero value. Not even a mention of me. It was just a fart and somebody laughing. And then at the end, the woman would come on and say, this has been the worst podcast ever. And that was downloaded over the last 2 years, 95 times. The best month was the very first month. It shot out of the gate. It got 12 plays per month. Then it went to 7. It went to 6, 8. And let's see. Last month, it got one play. And again, but I am seeing in some cases, Apple Core Media, somebody on Pocket Cast listened to it, but almost all of these are bots. And so, yeah, Pocket Cast and something called Ruby listen to it. And I'm not 100% sure how Podbean does their stats. I know both Libsyn and Blueberry go through and filter a lot of these out so you get a realistic number of what kind of listeners you're getting. Here's a quick 40-second clip from the episode titled Arby Ears and Tramp Stamps.
My neighbor's some 3-year-old freak. And he decided to stretch out his earlobes. I'm not going to look like anybody else. I want to stand out. I want to be an individual. So his ears got bigger and bigger. Soon you could whistle through his ears. Then you could throw a football through his earlobes. And guess what? They finally broke. They just freaking snapped. His left earlobe is just 2 hanging pieces of meat. Way to go, idiot. Nice. You wanted to stand out? You stand out. You're the only person I know that basically has an Arby's sandwich dangling from his head. You're an idiot.
Okay, so this particular episode, and this is where I was getting bored with the project. I was losing focus, and this has been downloaded 122 times over 2 years. The looks like the first month it got 0 downloads. You would think I would have listened to it, but the next month it went up to 21. The next month after that, 33 plays in a single month, and then it went down to 11. And what happens is this probably means between this episode and the next episode, I took like a lot of time off. As I look at some of the stats here, again, a lot of Google bot visited this podcast a lot. So it may not have been even less than that. But here again, I was thinking, wait a minute, that's almost like a story. There's too much value in that particular horrible podcast. So I thought about other things that make podcasts horrible, that make them unlistenable. And here's a clip from the episode, oddly enough, called Give Me Some Money. And it sounded like this.
And now the worst podcast ever.
I'm a grumpy old man, and I spend a lot of money on this microphone, and I talk into the microphone, and you listen because you're stupid. And you know what? You need to give me money. Yeah, you heard me. I'm a podcaster. I talk into the microphone. It took a lot of time to come up with this. Now give me some money. You heard me. Open up your wallet. Give me some money. I talk into the microphone. You give me some money. That's how it works. I'm going to be John Lee Dumas. Give me some money. That's all I got to do. Talk into the microphone. You give me money. Value for value. I'm going to be the next John Lee Dumas. Give me some money.
This has been the worst podcast
ever. Okay. This got, over the last 2 years, 266 downloads. I find that amazing. And granted, that's 133 a year. That's like 10 a month, which, as I look at my stats, is about what I got. Now, for some reason, in February of 2015, this got 49 plays in a single month. I have no idea why. There's a thing called Ruby. Lots and lots of Ruby. I have no idea what that means. There's some Apple Core Media. That's probably me. Again, 10 downloads a month. And one of the things, you know, when Steve Jobs talked about amateur hour, a lot of people talk about people doing potty humor. So I decided to actually do some potty humor.
and now the worst podcast ever.
I'm a grumpy old man with a microphone, and I don't understand. I was watching TV, then these little bears come on, and they're all talking about going poo. And they said I should enjoy the go. What is with the fixation of taking a crap? I don't understand it now. Now they're going to have little wet naps to wipe my butt. Back in the day, when I was growing up, I wiped my ass with a pine cone. It worked. It got in all the crevices and got out all the nooks and crannies. Wet naps for your butt. What are we thinking?
This has been the worst podcast ever.
Okay. So this wonderful piece of art was downloaded 14 times the first month it was out. After that, the next month it was down to 8. The month after that, it was down to 2 per month. For some reason, again, in February, this Ruby thing. So if you're a stat person or a web person, Ruby is all over this website. And so my guess is when it says here in February that I had 46 plays for the month, I'm thinking that's a robot somehow. Who knows? Again, I was doing zero promotion for this. So last week I decided I'd had enough of the worst podcast ever. It's a weird podcast because it's not me. It's just an old man screaming into a microphone. And I had tried other things with Podbean, and I'd gotten pretty much what I got out of it. And I decided to put out one more episode. But I wanted this episode, again, to have absolutely zero value. Now, if you're new to podcasting, a lot of your downloads will come in the very first week and especially the very first month. But that first week will give you an idea of how many people are subscribed to your podcast. So here is last week's episode. What did I title this? It was called, I Have a Question for You. It's a whopping 30 seconds long.
And now the worst podcast ever.
I'm a grumpy old man, and I have a question for you. May I moo-moo dog face with a banana patch? You heard me. May I moo-moo dog face banana patch? You're an idiot. Give me money.
This has been the worst podcast ever. For more information, go to www.worstpodcastever.com.
All right, so for whatever reason, a fair amount of hiss coming through there. That particular episode, just from last week, downloaded 10 times. My overall total for all of the horrible episodes, 1,344 times over 2 years, basically 2 downloads a day, and apparently a lot of those are bots. So doing a show in a character, on one hand, can maybe give you the courage to start your podcast because, well, maybe if people won't listen to you, maybe they'll listen to your character. To me, I say go back and just do it. I've told the story before. When I was in high school, I got fired from a job in a grocery store because I was too shy. I was painfully shy, and I needed to talk to the customer some more. And my teacher at school said, Dave, if you act the way you want to be, someday you will be the way you act. Better known as fake it till you make it. And I took his advice, and now you can't shut me up. So that would be that. And on one hand, when you do a show as a character, I mean, let's look at The Simpsons. Let's look at The Family Guy. I mean, the guy behind the radio guy's name is Seth McFarland. And if you never heard that, here's a little clip of Stewie.
I was making radio shows for fun. If everybody does it, at least everybody I know. Shut up!
But think about both those shows get away with a whole lot more because they're a, quote, character. And they're a cartoon. And this is not a new idea. I mean, a member of the School of Podcasting goes by Stargate Pioneer. He does the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast at legendsofshield.com. But if we go all the way back in the day, back when I started, there was a company called Pod Show, and one of the most outrageous characters on the podcast dial was Marge Weinstein, who was a bloated lesbian with food allergies. And she had this horrendous New Jersey, New York kind of accent. Let me see if I can get this to play.
Bring.
Yeah.
Bring.
That's Marge.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Griselda. It's Madge. How have you been? I haven't talked to you in ages.
Hi, Madge. I'm pretty good. I'm glad that we got help on Half Ton Teen. Did you see that on TLC?
I didn't watch Half Ton Teen yet, and I'm going to get in big trouble from...
Now, you can probably figure out something here. Madge is a dude. But I was really surprised to see Madge is still rolling. Unfortunately, all the old, really, really, really offensive, just way over the top stuff was on the Pod Show servers, and I can see where Madge has never updated it. But I forget Madge's real name. I actually came to the New Media Expo in a dress as Madge. It was really interesting. I'll have to see if there's some YouTube clips of that. So it's not a new idea, and it is something that you may want to think about. Now, what are the downsides of doing a character? Well, there are a couple things. Number one, what if somebody wants Grumpy Old Man to come speak at a conference? Maybe AARP wants me to come speak. Kind of hard because Grumpy Old Man doesn't really exist. Yeah. What if I want to meet Paul David Peterson? And that's kind of one of the things that if you go to eexplosion.net, this is kind of what inspired part of this episode. This is a show done completely in character. The character's name is Paul David Peterson. And it's a really interesting show because he's interviewing people that he disagrees with. And I'm not sure why he's not using his real name, but we all have our reasons. But if I want to meet Paul David Peterson at Podcast Movement or New Media Expo, that's going to be kind of hard because Paul David Peterson in reality does not exist. I'm sure, obviously, there's a real person there, but when you go completely incognito, you are doing a performance in a way with a message that is intended to inspire and motivate people. But are you ever going to really be able to connect with your audience if you're completely incognito? Now, you can go the Seth MacFarlane route and go, I am the creator of The Family Guy. But that means that any controversy that you might start up or anything that people disagree with, you're still going to have to handle that. There are going to be those people that go, oh, Seth MacFarlane makes too many Jesus jokes on The Family Guy. Well, he's going to have to deal with that because it's kind of under his name. And that's, again, one of the things I was kind of worried about this episode is people are going to go, hey, Dave, that's still kind of you. And not everybody's going to buy well, that's my character. Not everybody is going to buy that. The other thing, as I've already said, just to kind of wrap this up, depending on your personality, I have a really hard time writing for a character. Every now and then something would jump out. That's the other thing. The worst podcast ever, worst scheduling ever. It came out whenever. Not that you have to have a schedule, but nobody was able to put me into the routine because they never knew when the show was coming out. And for the most part, podcasting is about keeping it real, yo. And when you kind of come out as a character, it's a little different than you're keeping it real for the character that doesn't exist. So I thought I would do this episode to talk about what kind of numbers can you expect from if your show's really, really bad. And I guess I'm going to summarize and say 10 a month. And that's, I guess, per episode. 10 downloads of an episode per month. 0.03 a day, something like that. And also to say, well, it is an option. Maybe you want to do a podcast as a character. I think that's the difference. It's more of a performance than a conversation. Maybe. It adds a whole new little twist to things when you're doing things as a character. So while maybe you don't have the courage to start a podcast, maybe your character does.
In case you missed it, it's time for a podcast rewind.
Well, speaking of Paul Peterson, and we had Doug Payton, Colin Gray from Scotland, myself, Daniel J. Lewis, and Ray Ortega. We're on episode number 53 of the Podcasters Roundtable talking about formats. And here's a quick snippet of that.
Right. And parody, Daniel, Dave, I don't think you've seen that podcast very often, have you? I mean, it's definitely different. It's not something most podcasters think about when they're starting a show.
Parody
make
is
it up.
Fun here and there, like an episode for a parody. I've done that before. I've seen other podcasters do that before. Dave has parodied radio several times before with great success. And I think a lot of us, if we're thinking parody, we might think, oh yeah, that's an episode. But like a whole show, that's a whole format. Yeah. Right. And some of us even switch formats in our one episode is one format. The next episode is a different format.
Right, and it becomes sort of a one-joke show. You know, if you end up doing that parody, like you say, Daniel, if you do it sort of again and again, the joke somehow is the same. And I'm really just trying to use the humor as a frame for more serious conversation.
I mean, it works for Steve Colbert, right?
Yep.
And you can find that over at podcastersroundtable.com. Find Daniel at theaudacitytopodcast.com. By the way, Daniel, thanks for being a good joke, a good friend, and if you wonder, like when I said activating Daniel mode, that's who I was poking fun at. Really good guy. And of course, Ray has the Podcaster Studio, and we all get together and we call it Podcasters Roundtable. And if you have thought about that today, hey, you know what? I never thought about starting a podcast as a character. Maybe I want to do that. Maybe you want to just do it as yourself. That would be great too. Go out to schoolofpodcasting.com, click on the button, sign up, use the coupon code LISTENER. That is LISTENER, and that'll save you off your first and every other month after that of the School of Podcasting. We have step-by-step tutorials, and I mean on every aspect. That's one of the things I need to figure out. People that sign up say, Dave, you don't understand. You have everything here. And you need to let people know what's here. Because I just say step-by-step tutorials from, planning to promoting to your website to recording to equipment. Everything's there. And the other thing, if you've ever been worried about, if you sign up for the School of Podcasting and you don't like it, you can get a 30-day money back guarantee. Check it out, schoolofpodcasting.com, and then use the coupon code LISTENER. If you don't have a website, send me an email with the phrase quick start, and we can look into a little swap that we do where if you order your website hosting through me, I earn a commission, and that commission can be used towards your first month at the School of Podcasting. Next week, I'm going to kind of do a show for the newbies. Is newbie kind of a derogative term for people that are just getting into podcasting? Because I got this question, and we're going to answer it next week.
Hey, Dave, John Wilkerson here from 10 the Podcast, where you get a podcast that's 10 minutes long every 10 days. And, man, I'm listening to your latest episode, and you're talking about the guy who goes to the laundromat, right? And you pull out the Freebird thing. So I'm wondering, like, what's the Freebird of podcasting? So you go to a concert, and someone's playing, and someone yells, play Freebird! So I guess the equivalent of Freebird in podcasting would be, have you listened to Serial? Like, no, I eat cereal. I haven't listened to it. Well, it crunches anyway. Anyway, that's it, dude. Keep up the great work. Love the personality behind the podcast. And love the great content. Bye.
Lots of personality today in today's show. And hopefully you didn't find that too offensive. Again, I've got 469 episodes that are completely, absolutely clean. Feel free to check those out. And it'll probably be another 469 before I let anything not work safe come back across the feed. And I mentioned a promo code for the School of Podcasting. If you're going to be going to the podcast movement, which is coming up right around the bend, go over to podcastmovement.com. Use the coupon code SOP and earn a discount on that. I'll be doing a talk called Help My Podcast is Broken. And that's going to be talking about technical things like your feed. It's going to be talking about getting more feedback from your audience, things like that. So I will be speaking at Podcast Movement. Again, use the coupon code SOP when you go to Podcast Movement to sign up. So thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Until next week, class is dismissed, and I hope to see you on the inside.
I'm your personal podcast coach, Andrew Dice Clay. There once was a man from Nantucket whose podcast was so long you could... That's a horrible Dice Clay imitation.
Hey, just a little behind the scenes. That whole little 4-minute snippet, that took me about 3 hours. If you're a perfectionist, don't do stuff like this. You'll go crazy.